All right, it looks like we are just about ready to go. Hello, everyone. My name is Shadowfix, and the moment we've been waiting for has arrived. We are incredibly hyped to be able to bring you coverage of the grand finals for the Breath of the Wild Any Percent tournament this evening. This should truly be a great set of races. We are sitting here with a best of 5 scenario for tonight's matchup, and I am told that Wolhaiksong has one of these mainly just coming from winner's bracket. But anyway, I'm also pleased to be joined by our commentators, Pika Stroff and Tallis Thomas. How are you guys doing tonight?
Hello.
Heyo, I'm doing great. Can't wait to watch this race.
Same here. I'll let you guys take over while I get our runners ready to start racing.
Okay, cool. So hello everyone. I think since this is a grand finale of the tournament, I think it's right now is a great moment to kind of reflect on how much because this tournament has been going on for quite a while, hasn't it now?
Yeah, I actually don't remember when it started, but it's speedrunning any percent has changed quite a bit since the tournament started.
Yeah, because we've had the discovery of wind bombs, which, while 80% was not the most affected category, it mainly affected many other categories. Wind bombs definitely had an impact on it. No puns intended on that one. And also, there was also the discovery of wind blight skip, um, which is definitely going to be interesting to see in those runs, probably.
Yeah, Windblade Skip is probably, I think, more time save than Wind Bombs overall. Wind Bombs are definitely really cool looking. Blight Skip is really cool looking. So I'm really excited to see how this goes. I know Song uses both of those. All right, and looks like we are off.
Indeed, good luck to the both of them.
So I
Okay.
know.
Oh, go ahead.
I was talking to you before about this, Pika, but one thing you'll see with the two runners is that they're going to be doing two completely different, well, mainly different routes especially when it comes to castle. Song is going to be doing the new modern cutting edge run with Blight Skip and Wind Bombs, and I'm almost 100% positive that MrPop will be doing the old library route.
Oh yeah, indeed. Because MrPop, his main goal for the past, obviously for his time speedrunning Breath of the Wild, has been to get sub 30, and he did get it. His PB is a 29, if I recall correctly, which is an excellent time to top 5 time. And ever since then, he focused on other categories. But we still shouldn't underestimate because, as I said, he's a top 5 runner, so it's definitely going to be an interesting finale to watch.
Yeah,
Yeah, go ahead.
I mean, Pop is just insanely consistent when it comes to speedruns. He doesn't miss the box launch in the library ever. He's just super consistent about things.
Indeed, that is true. You may notice that the both of them had their game in French. The reason for that is because of speed. Basically, in the context of any percent, the voice acting is faster in French. It's the fastest, with a very close second in German by like 1 frame. So runners can decide whether play in German or in French. They can decide. But since French is fastest, yeah, they both decided to go with French. And so they just perform a Shrine of Resurrection clip. So they just grabbed the Sheikah Slate and went out. And we can already see a difference in the route right here. We can see that Song is going for the for the for the Boko shield directly, while MrPop is going for Pop Lid. Wow.
Yeah. So Boko Shield is it is faster by a couple seconds, but it is also a lot riskier, just because it depends on the amount of hits, and it really depends on the how the Bokoblins behave, and we all know that Bokoblins don't like to behave. So while it is faster, and a lot of the top runners do that, it is a very reset heavy kind of thing. So it'll be interesting to see how this goes. But it's worked out for Song pretty much the entire tournament, but going Boko Shield. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, I don't think he's done it in races so far. I think so far he's only done Potlet, or unless I'm wrong, correct me. But definitely something to consider. Indeed, is Boko behavior, because if you die here, it definitely can set you back a lot. And since you lose a lot of health, also due to the cold damage, the risks of dying become pretty high if Bokos do not cooperate. So that's why you may have seen, I believe MrPop picked up safety food, if I recall correctly. And it's already important to have safety food for this section, not just for that, but also for future sections. And this puts Song at a little disadvantage here, not having that safety food. But he now has the advantage of being slightly forward. So we'll see what happens. And that was a
looks
very...
like Song, these guys, like I said, these are some of the top runners in the world. So watching them do some of these tricks is good. Looks like Pop is having a little bit of trouble with the stasis clip. Stasis is probably agreed as the most inconsistent of the shrine clips. There's no 100% consistent setup, unlike Magnesis bombs or Cryonis, where we have like um, a set setup for it. Stasis is kind of willy-nilly, so it's a little irritating. But yeah, it looks like Pop had a little bit of trouble, so that gives Song a little bit more of a lead as he gets through the cutscene faster.
Yeah, I guess one of the reasons why stasis is harder to clip in is because you need to get a particular skew spot to get a certain strength that you need in a certain direction. And I think in this particular shrine, it's harder to get a precise one consistently. So it keeps shifting just a little bit every time you do it. And so the spot on which you do your jump then keeps changing for the clip in. I'm not exactly sure that would be it. Let's see. Yes, he did a clean shield jump. Yeah, you can see here that Song did a strat here by doing a shield jump and then removing his shield, which allows him to do like a jump that allows him to jump quite far. Therefore, skipping having to hit that boulder with stasis, so it's a bit of a save of time. And MrPop did it too. It's theoretically quite easy to do, but you can easily accidentally fall down, and if you have got less than one heart, you will die, which means restarting the shrine. So they're both lucky.
Yeah, and the shield jump, it kind of a simpler way of putting it, it's essentially a double jump here in Breath of the Wild. When you jump forward, you'll notice that they'll wait a little bit and then they'll do a shield jump. Since they delay it, it acts like a secondary jump. So the reason they unequip their shield too is if you don't, you'll actually just kind of bounce off the edge and fall into the pit. So when they unequip the shield, it allows Link to have his feet free so he can climb up that edge when he makes contact with it. Right now, you'll see them menuing through some of the text. This has actually been timed out. The fastest way of doing it is 2-1-1-2, or option B, option A again, and then option B. It is the fastest way through it. It is the only dialogue we actually have to mash through at this point, besides Old Man talks to you again a little bit later. And then Song is onto the first little boulder ride there.
Yeah, indeed, we just saw him charging the boulder with stasis, and we see that MrPop is about to do the same. We're about to see Song about to do his first bullet time bounce. Let's see. Oh,
It looks like the Bokoblin spotted him a little bit, or unfortunately just spotted him in general. So he wound up bouncing off the wall. This gives Pop a chance to take the lead now because Song has to sit through the loading screen and also set up the whole thing again. And it looks like the Boko spotted Pop too. Oof.
yeah, this BTB is quite tricky when it comes to Boko spotting. It can be a bit iffy. Because bullet time bounces depend heavily, for instance, on where you land on the Boko, the timing, everything. And so, for instance, if they spot you too early, then the positioning where Link will land will be different, and that will make him be launched in a different direction than if he had landed after activating bullet time later, which likewise would throw him in a different direction. So it can be precise, and that's why it can be tricky. We can see that unfortunately MrPop is having a bit of trouble, and Wolhaiksong meanwhile is in his second shrine.
Yeah, it looks like Pop pulled the bow out a little too early on that last one. This one looks like it should be good. Yeah, that one's good.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you enter bullet time, the timing of when you actually activate it really matters. If you activate it too early, you'll wind up flying a different direction. Same thing if you activate it too late, you'll wind up hitting too far into the bokoblin and actually just flying straight into the boulder, the canyon wall. So the cool thing with bullet time bounce is it's a weird interaction between Link being on a shield, bullet time, and enemies that can ragdoll. And what happens is when you make contact with an enemy that can ragdoll while in bullet time, while shield surfing, you wind up getting a 19 to 20 times multiplier on your speed, and that's how they're able to travel so far so quickly.
Indeed. This was something that completely shattered Breath of the Wild speedrunning back when it was discovered. And something that you must consider in the case of doing it on the Great Plateau is doing what we call a fall damage cancel. Because otherwise Link will just die. Since we don't have the paraglider at this point to stop ourselves. And sometimes the distances between Link and the ground is a bit too tight, and so it can be a bit scary. But we didn't have any issues with that so far. We now see Song onto one bullet time bounce that will lead him to the Magnesis Shrine. Nice. Okay, let's hope he gets unloaded. Because there is a chance that he will manage to land before the shrine actually loads in which case he can just waltz in inside.
And it looks like it.
It is.
Yep,
Nice.
he got it. So to explain this a little bit, you'll notice that if you've played Breath of the Wild before casually and you've played through the game, you'll notice there's pretty much zero loading time when you're in the overworld. What happens is with bullet time bounces, we're moving Link so fast through the map, the game isn't actually able to load everything in time. So it's a weird thing that we can actually go so fast that we can beat the game to the shrine's outside textures actually fully loading. So that way we can just run straight through the front door.
Indeed. Unfortunately, there are no 100% consistent methods to ensure we get unloaded, but we've got ideas on how to put chances on our side, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, there's been definitely a lot of experimenting. I know Rosin did a lot, Song's done a lot. We've all been experimenting with theories and stuff like that. It looks like Pop didn't get the correct angle, so this goes back to mentioning of the timing of pulling out the bow for Link. He wound up landing in the forest, which in a race scenario isn't the worst thing in the world. He does lose a bit of time, but he does gain 10 arrows that he picks up in the forest, so that might help him out a little bit later in the boss rush.
Yes, indeed. That's the advantage of landing early. You do lose time when traveling to Magnesis, but those extra arrows might make the difference in a race setting. And oh yeah, since I see that in the chat, something that we probably should have mentioned earlier is that this is a best of 5, for the finale. And as Vivox is saying right there, Song is starting with 1 game up. So we're currently 1-0 with the best of 5. Yeah, in case some people didn't, in case people joined after you mentioned it, Shadow, okay?
or people just tuned you out. One of the two. But looks like Song is moving on to the next BTB, which is to bombs. Good. Oof, no. So those bokoblins that is a BTB that relies heavily on Bokoblin behavior, and a lot of the times they don't want to behave properly. So it looks like he's just going to go for a tree launch to get over to bombs now.
The kind of BTB is what made that kind of moment in the run is what made me move on to Skyward Sword.
And a Bokoblin sniped him off of the tree before it launched. So
Yeah,
he fell off, and now Song has to run the entire way. So he's going to lose probably 20 to 30 seconds right now.
That might give an opportunity for MrPop to catch up if he manages to get a bullet time bounce here. Because the thing is, indeed, just as Thomas was saying right there, it heavily relies on Boko behavior. Because you might have seen earlier Song landing, like launching a box and then landing. He must land at the correct area to make sure that the Bokos react in an appropriate way. Then he will need to position himself in the correct way while ensuring that they move in the correct way, and then hope that once he's finally positioned, that they will once again behave correctly, so that then he can do the jump and time the bullet time correctly, which can be quite tricky to do. Let's see. We can see here that MrPop, yes, he got it. Very nice.
He got one of the fast angles. So if you land lower on a Bokoblin's back when he's standing upright, your launch angle is a lot lower, but your speed is just as fast. So you get to the bomb shrine a lot quicker. It's a pretty tight timing to get that right away, but looks like he's right on Song's tail again.
Indeed. So one thing to note, just before moving on, is that Song now has a beetle that he picked up from walking, because you normally pick it up later, but he used the opportunity he had to pick up an early beetle, which he will need to for cooking later on. But MrPop does not have it, so he will need to pick up a beetle later on. Now we're about to see Song do a wind bomb. Nice. Okay, so wind bombs. Basically, what happens is when Link jumps and then goes into bullet time, you put a first bomb in the air. Then you place a second one, and then you make the first one explode, all while during bullet time. And therefore, what will happen is that if you had the right timing and the second bomb is then launched onto Link with the right angle, this will propulse Link at high speeds, just as you saw on Song's stream. This is quite a tight timing to get, because there's many risks that either the bomb will not be touching Link in the right angle, or you will get blasted by the explosion of the first bomb. There's many risks that can happen. But as you could see on Song's side, definitely it can mean quite high speeds. MrPop, on the other hand, did not go for that. But it's definitely understandable. It's definitely safer to not go for it, especially considering taking in that damage from the bomb can be risky at times.
To address you, Michikusa, in the chat. No, he didn't. He went for the quote-unquote older wind bomb strategy. So it was recently discovered. I mean, wind bombs are a relatively new discovery. They were only discovered in the beginning of September, and so there's still a lot of exploration to be done. But it was recently discovered that if you're in bullet time and you turn Link slightly between, like, probably 30 to 90 degrees, you actually get more speed when you get hit with the second bomb. So there has been a serious amount of testing from Song, Skedadora, pretty much all the top runners in Bomb Shrine. And there's actually a way, if you jump onto the podiums or the little pillars outside of the actual elevator to get into the shrine, you can actually launch directly from the entrance right to the monk at the end. It's a pretty tight timing, and yeah, but there's a Skedadora posted on Twitter. He literally got it to where he landed on the monk's stairs. So you just entirely skip the the bomb shrine at that point.
Nice.
Pop won. Thank God he didn't.
Yeah, that was very close
So
to
they're
falling to the temple.
so they're both getting gliders. So now here's a fun thing. Song and Pop are both about to be doing what we call the Castle BTB, which
Oh my god, that looks very good.
good. So when it comes to bullet time bounces, the speed that you hit a bokoblin with is what is multiplied. So the fact that we're jumping out of the top of the Tower of Time, falling to a point where it would actually kill Link if he hits the ground, and hitting bokoblin and bouncing off, the speed is multiplied so fast that we can actually go straight from the Temple of Time right to the castle. We don't have to touch Hyrule once. Looks like Song losing a bunch of speed. Don't know if he's actually going to make it to castle. It's going to be a little tight. He might be going for the pillar.
Nah, that looks fine to me. Or maybe if he glider pumps, maybe.
Yeah, he's going to have to pump. Okay, yeah. Looks like he's making it. MrPop missing his first attempt.
Yeah, the timing for that bullet time bounce is quite tight, because if you do it too early, Link will get an angle that is too high, and therefore will not get too much horizontal speed. And if you get it too late, either, well, you'll just touch the ground, or Link will do bullet time bounce, but he will be too low. And he will probably just end up landing, let's say, at around, what's it called? Well, we used to get the Phantom Armor. What's that location called? I forgot.
The courtyard?
Yeah, probably. Either way. Okay, looks like Pop also got a good BTB right there. It's definitely a tricky timing to get.
Yeah, I think MrPop actually timed it out. I think it's a 1 to 2 frame window to activate bullet time at the right time.
He did time it, I remember.
So what you're seeing Song do now is he's looking for those bananas he just got. So we need a banana, at least one, from that crate in order to make a level 3 attack up potion, which we need in order to kill the boss rush at the end of the run. There is a 50 to 60% chance that that crate will spawn one. So what you'll see runners do is save right beforehand, crack one open, see if they get a banana. If they don't, they just reload, and we'll see how MrPop deals with that. Also looks like MrPop got the better set of arrows with 5 shock arrows.
We also have to take into account that Pop has the extra arrows from the forest. So we can notice that Song has taken advantage of the fact that he was in the castle completely unloaded, because, well, he used the wind bomb to reach to the dining hall. So most of that section of the castle was not even loaded, so he could basically waltz through the certain section of the castle without needing to use the bombs, or at least using them later. So that's just a slightly different way to go through things. Okay, so now both of them are into collecting every weapons that they'll need for the final fight. Song now just needs first to kill that Lizalfos, to get the boomerang, cook the potion, and then he will go up to the final fight. We can see here that MrPop is collecting the Royal Guard Spear, which I believe Wolhaiksong did not. And if that's the case, that would be because, as we stated earlier, he's going for a different route, which includes the Wind Blight skip. I don't know if MrPop is going for it or not. Even because we could always imagine that maybe he still is picking it up for safety.
Looks like Song only has 3 regular arrows, which might pose a problem in the upcoming fights. I didn't see what other arrows he got, but when he lit the fire, he only had 3 regular arrows left.
He's probably got elemental arrows.
That's what I'm guessing.
I reckon that if he felt he didn't have enough arrows, he probably might have like saved and reloaded before the crates or something like that. We probably would have searched for backup arrows somewhere. Okay, so here we're about to see what? Yeah, so indeed he's going for it. Wind Blight skip. Okay, so that's really something that's really weird. Basically, when you enter the room, if you don't skip it, like you've got a little cutscene where you see the introduction of Wind Blight, you know, where you see the title and you see him screaming "Ooh!" like this at Link. And if you shoot an arrow right before entering the cutscene, that arrow will actually stay in place during the cutscene. And therefore, if you shoot an arrow and then enter the loading zone at the right time, as you can see here, it's completely messing with the head of Wind Blight, and that's because the arrow is actually situated right onto its head and just constantly headshotting it, and because of that, he's already dead at the moment that the fight actually starts. So that is basically Wind Blight's hit.
Yeah, it's something weird. It was discovered that when you shoot an arrow, or any kind of projectile into a cutscene, the projectile actually stays in place, so it stops wherever it is. But the actors that are used inside of the cutscene are the actual enemy actors. So what happens is the arrow is still active in there, and Windblade is actually the reason he's getting damaged is because he's literally moving into a frozen arrow, and the positioning that was found, I'm pretty sure, is a complete headshot. So that's how we're able to one-shot him.
Yeah, we see meanwhile that MrPop is as you were saying, he basically went for the old route. He went for the library, using a box launch to launch himself up to the sanctum, and he's not going for the skip. He's gonna fight Wind Blight. However, we have to consider that it's not because Song is ahead that nothing could change, because if any of them die from this point until the end of Calamity Ganon, they will spawn back right before the fight. So for instance, if Song were to die now, this would give a huge advantage to MrPop. But if MrPop dies, then that's a different story. So definitely that's a big Monkey's moment in the race, usually when we've got all runners at the final fight.
I do want to say that MrPop has some really good arrows. I saw when he did the second arrow collection in the armory, he did get 10 bomb arrows. So that puts him pretty heftily set for fighting Calamity Ganon.
Indeed.
So
yeah, indeed, that may give him the advantage for Calamity. Oh yeah, oh wow, he's really, oh my god, he's really out of arrows.
Is he entirely, I didn't see, is he entirely out of arrows at this point?
No, I think he's still got some shock arrows left, a couple ones. I think
Okay.
just enough to finish Thunder Blight, probably. And even then, it depends on how you manage to stun him. Because for the second phase, you don't even need arrows, technically speaking, do you? Like, you just need the initial stun, and you can try and keep him to the ground, possibly. Oh yeah, you do need for that initial stun. Never mind what I said. It's been 2 weeks, 3 weeks since I played that game, okay?
Been playing too much Skyward Sword, man.
Yeah, too focused on Skyward Sword.
So it looks like Song is very low on arrows, and he only has access to 15 more, 5 regular arrows, which are going to be located right behind him against the wall, and 10 bomb arrows that he'll be able to pick up. So, it seems like Pop is pretty far behind, but he might actually be able to catch up depending on how quickly he gets through Blights and how long Calamity takes for Song, because he's going to have to do a lot of parries and a lot of flurry rushes.
I don't know, we'll see, because, well, it is true that indeed the arrow difference does give an advantage to MrPop. Their time difference right now is quite large, so we'll see what will happen. I'm not too sure. But yeah, because usually what you want to do, as you're basically saying, is you want to basically do constantly headshots. You want to do as the least amount of like parries as possible. So that's why the more arrows, the better. But yeah, since he doesn't have many arrows, as you were saying, it looks like he'll have to do that.
Does look like Song pretty much has this under control and should be pushing him into phase 2 pretty quickly.
We'll have to see how phase 2 goes. We can see that he went for a quick parry, which I believe is done by crouching, I think, at the same time as you do the actual parry, isn't it? Something like that?
Yes, so
I've
after
actually
you...
done one myself.
As soon as you reflect the laser, if you hit the parry, if you hit crouch, you'll actually cancel the slow motion animation. So what we're seeing Song here start is something called the stun lock. And what he's going to do is he's going to do a spin attack. He's going to wait till Calamity puts his spear into the ground, and then he's going to slam. When he does that, what happens is it stuns Calamity temporarily. He goes with that, and then he's just going to rinse and repeat. Every time the spear goes in, Song is going to slam, and that puts him right into a stun. So phase 2 of Calamity Ganon is pretty much a joke if you get the stun lock down. Just because he won't ever get up. He won't attack, he won't move, nothing.
As long as you don't
And there
have
goes,
trouble with the weapon durability, because that can happen. But indeed, GG to Song for finishing Calamity Ganon. Now he's pretty much got it now, because even if you die at this fight, which is pretty much like no, you do respawn at that fight anyway, so it's not risky anymore. It's fine.
Yeah, so Song's up to what I like to call the Big Pig. This is Beast Ganon. Essentially, it's target practice. It's an auto-scroll part of the game. He's going to run around, he's going to hit 3 targets on one side, hit 3 targets on the other side, hit 1 target on his belly, and then shoot a giant eyeball coming out of his head. And that is how you kill that. So it's a pretty straightforward. It's really hard to mess up, as Pico was saying. But I mean, I will admit I've died not paying attention and getting overexcited.
Pulling an eye, then I believe that's how we call it. But yeah, I think we've all done that mistake. We see meanwhile MrPop, like for his second phase, we saw that he unfortunately didn't have as much luck with his stun lock. Like even his phase 2 in general. Oh no.
Oh no.
Like we saw at first, he went for a melee attack, so Pop just went away to make sure he doesn't get attacked. Then he parried, and unfortunately, getting killed. Oh, that's unfortunate.
That's super unfortunate.
That hurts.
So that wall laser is a different parry timing compared to the normal ground laser that we deal with. So that's super unfortunate, and you'll see that Pop is going to be placed right in front of Windblight again, right in front of Sanctum, so he'll have to go through the entire boss rush again.
So, as a reminder for people who may only have joined like later on, this is a best of 5, and Song, since he was in the winner's bracket, already has 1. So it means we're about to have a 2-0 on us so far, considering once again this is a best of 5. So yeah, things are getting quite Monka-esque for MrPop, but there's still hope, do you think? I do think so.
Yeah, I mean, he can definitely come back. He's a very strong player.
He is.
He's doing some MrPop things right now by messing around. He did attempt. I can say he has attempted a win bomb. So
he's a very good player. Like both of them are very good. So GG to Song for finishing. Wow, that's a very good time he finished with.
Yeah, that should be a 30. So that was a very good time.
Casually destroying our PBs.
So I'm gonna go ahead. Sorry to interrupt. I'm gonna go ahead and check in with our runners and see if we can't get a new room open and get another race going. So I'll switch scenes just for now and be back with you guys shortly.
Sounds good.
All right. That was cool.
That was a super solid race.
Yeah, indeed. Indeed, as I was myself saying like a minute ago. Wait, I forgot what I wanted to say. Nice. um, it's very impressive to see that kind of time. Like, for those of you that are not familiar with Breath of the Wild, any percent. First off, the time that you see here, a 31:59, it's not the same time as you would see on the leaderboard, because the way we actually time races and runs is not the same. Because on races, we start when we press like begin the file. That's when we start the timer. But in an actual run, you start it when you gain control of Link. So although you may have seen a 31:59 here, the reality is that it's actually a 30 something something run, which is an excellent time. So you can tell that despite the mistakes that were in these runs, it still managed to end with a phenomenal time. Even if MrPop did not finish, if he had finished, it would have been a really good time. 30:52, indeed, as Michiku says, saying right here. Thank you for the converting. So yeah, really good time. And we have also to have to consider that MrPop is quite rusty with Breath of the Wild, since I believe, he's been mainly focused on Ocarina of Time lately. So it's a very good time for a rusty time, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, with a 30:52, that would put him in the top 10 times for the no amiibo category of any percent. So that just right there alone shows you how good these guys are.
Okay, I guess they should be ready in a few minutes. So while we wait, is there anything you'd like to say about, like, any thoughts you'd like to talk about?
I'm just really excited. I mean, I'm so if Song has 2 right now, if he wins the next one, that's it.
Yeah,
So-
pretty much.
So Pop
Yeah.
has to come back pretty hard on this. I'm pretty sure Pop can pull it off too. He's like I said, just a very consistent runner. Even when he's like quote unquote rusty, he is just a super consistent runner. So, it's definitely going to be a really interesting run to see. I mean, we've said it 1,000 times. These guys are amazing. I've been running the game only for a short amount of time, and seeing them knock out 30s in a race is pretty crazy to me. So I'm just excited.
Indeed.
Okay, the runners have asked to go quickly, so we're gonna get a new one going. 30 seconds.
Okay,
Good.
cool. Let's go. Okay, so just as Thomas was saying, regarding the state of this finale bracket, this is best of 5, and we're currently sitting at a 2-0 for Song. So if Song wins this round, it means it's over for Pop. But both of them are excellent players, so you never know what could happen. Nevertheless, whatever is the result, it's definitely going to be entertaining. And as you know, at the end of the day, they're both amazing runners, so that's what counts. It's going to be super enjoyable, both for the runners themselves and for us to watch. All right, they're going to start in a couple seconds, and let's go. Good luck to the both of them. Indeed, thanks, Sunny. I do believe Song and Pop, while they were at GDQ, they did get the two player one controller world record, if I recall correctly.
This game is
What
hard
happened?
enough with 1 player, 1 controller. I can't imagine 2 player, 1 controller.
What happens when you put two top 5 players in one room? But yeah, indeed, this is going to be interesting to watch. Especially considering how risk-taking Song has been in his runs. Like I'm thinking, for instance, with his decision of going with Boko Shield and whatnot.
Yeah,
That's gonna-
It'll be interesting because he can go the safe route right now. If he decided that he's comfortable enough, he can actually just go for pot lid and still be fine. Pop does have to win the next 3 runs in order to win. So he could go safe strat. He can start doing more safe things, or he can go ahead and he can push the envelope on things a little bit more. So we'll just have to see.
So just to re-explain again for those that may have not been here for the previous race, you may have noticed that they're playing in French. And the reason for that is because the voices are faster in French in the context of any percent in this route. The second closest and wait, is that
Oh,
what?
Mr.
no.
Pop.
MrPop, what are you doing? Okay, so did MrPop just try for a second to go for an like that? Okay, just to give.
Yeah, I think he did.
Okay, so to give some context on what just happened, I don't know. Back a long time ago, we used to just go out the Shrine's direction casually, like just opening the doorway out. We would have the opening cutscene where we see Hyrule Field, we see everything, etc., etc. Then it was discovered with the Shikase that we could actually clip out of the Shrine of Resurrection. By doing a Shikase clip by putting Link on a certain angle on the wall. And the first method to do that involved putting those boxes that you saw in a certain positioning that was quite precise and really obnoxious, and that was a really reset-heavy start. And then one day, that other setup was discovered in the initial room, and Hallelujah, Hallelujah! It was a lot more consistent and less reset-heavy than that box method. Yeah. I've got nightmares from that period.
I was not around in the game during the box method. I recently started because after watching actually Song run at a GDQ, and at the time Limcube had released his tutorial series on how to run any percent. So if you're interested in doing that, go on YouTube, check that out. It's great. You'll learn the older route, the library route that MrPop does. But it's a great way to get started in running this game. And I know Pika from this game, even though he doesn't really run it anymore. He left us to go play Skyward Sword. But it's a great community. I mean, this whole tournament's been a community organized event, and we're all super supportive of each other. We all help each other out as much as we can. So I highly recommend, if you want to learn how to run this game, go check it out. Join the Breath of the Wild Discord, and just come hang out and say hi.
Indeed, amazing people in this community. And look at that, to celebrate for that, we've got, I think Song had a fairly clean clip-in, and so did Pop. I'm not sure about Song. Did Song get a clean clip-in?
I'm just going to assume yes.
Yes, indeed. Because as we had said in the previous race, basically what runners do is that we don't want to go through the plateau Shika Tower, which basically means we can't just use the Shika Slate to open the shrine. So basically, instead, what we do is just we waltz through the walls and just enter that way. And so they do what we call the skew clip to enter, which relies a lot on the, for instance, on the slope on which Link will land with his shield and whatnot. And this shrine is particularly notorious for being quite inconsistent. But luckily it was fine for the both of them.
Yeah, skew clipping was another big discovery. I think that was last year that it was discovered.
Yes.
It was right around the same time as bullet time bounces were discovered. So shield clipping allows you to pretty much pop through any single layer wall. So it turned out that the Great Plateau Tower doesn't need to be activated anymore. So instead of running to tower, activating, dealing with that cutscene, dealing with the old man there, we were able to kind of just go through the side of a shrine instead of trying to run through the door. Because you'll notice that the shrines actually aren't active; they are completely off until you finish them, and they get that nice blue glow. So yeah, so that was a year, and then I think almost to the day, a year later, was when wind bombs were discovered. So this game is from 2017, but it is still. We have some very dedicated glitch hunters in both just the speedrunning community in general, but also like the Japanese scene, very heavy into the glitch hunting. So there's always new stuff being discovered, and the game has just evolved a crazy amount.
Well, this game is very young, like when it comes to as a speed game, so there's still lots of potential.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Zelda community, speedrunners in general, is pretty broken. I mean, dedicated, like Majora's Mask has been blowing up with the
Warp.
discovery of Wrong Warp. To the point where like I'm considering of actually after I finish up Breath of the Wild, I'll be maybe trying to run that game. But
Oh.
like that was a run that was world record was an hour and 15 minutes, and that was like only one person got a 1:15, and that was Enop. And
Now
now the world record is a 28, which
it's
is
basically
insane.
it's insane to think that now Majora's Mask is basically the same time as Breath of the Wild. We see right now, speaking of Breath of the Wild, maybe as much as I want to talk about it, maybe we should get back on the actual run.
It's debatable.
Song had a bit of issue getting his bullet time bounce because he got spotted early, I believe. But his second attempt went fine. We saw that he pointed the camera to the sky, which I think was to potentially prevent lag, I think.
Yeah, so the idea of pointing it at the sky, the game loads whatever's in sight. So whatever's viewable, the game will try to load. So when you see Song point the camera up, what he's trying to do is he's trying to prevent the game from loading textures that aren't really needed. So
Meanwhile,
Pop
yeah.
missed
Meanwhile,
the
the problem
BTB.
with MrPop, yeah, he basically had a bit of a bad angle and hit the wall, and because of that, he had to kill his BTB early and land on the snow. But luckily, he can just shield surf on the snow. It's a bad time loss, unfortunately, but you gotta do what you gotta do. But it's
Yeah,
been
but
crazy into. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say even still, even missing it, he's really not too far behind Song at this point.
That's true. Now he's about to do a cryo jump. Oh
Ooh.
no! Okay, so
Yeah.
this is one of the big risks with taking the Boko shield, because see, we spoke about the pot lid versus Boko shield risks a bit in the previous race, which were about the actual route itself in terms of the movement. In that, with the pot lid, you had the safety of going. You could go grab more food, and I'm not sure. I think you don't take as much like damage, or no, I'm not really sure.
So you can actually prevent. So when you go for Boko shield, you actually kind of mitigate some of the cold damage because you actually run close to the campfire that the Bokos have. So you're not entirely too much worried about that, but the durability of a Boko shield is pretty bad. So as you can
Very
see,
low. Indeed, that is the second risk.
and that's a big issue. He needs that in order to pretty much get through the rest of the Great Plateau. Without it, he can't do clips. He can't do bullet time bounces. So it's pretty important that that shield stays in place. And what you'll see him do in order to prevent it from breaking is as he does a shield jump, you'll see him unequip it and re-equip it very quickly. And what that does is that prevents the shield from taking any damage when he lands.
Oh. So we see here that Song just attempted to do a bullet time bounce over to Magnesis, but unfortunately he started his bullet time a bit too late, and because of that he missed the Bokos. That might actually give a chance to MrPop to catch up here. Oh, wait, no. Oh my, no. Oh, Breath of the Wild is mean right now.
So
Breath of...
auto saves are a little finicky in Breath of the Wild, and it looks like that Song's autosave unfortunately put him right back at the beginning of the Cryonis Shrine instead of right outside the shrine where usually it is.
Yeah, normally the game does autosave. I wonder if it has to do with the fact that he reloaded after his shield broke. I don't know. Because normally automatically it should be autosaving right after you leave the shrine. That's really unlucky. Hopefully it will this time around. Meanwhile, for Pop, it looks too early, so I think, yeah, it's too early. So what will happen is that he will land in the forest. But as we said in the previous race, landing in the forest means he can pick up some extra arrows in the forest. So even though he's still slower, this might give him an advantage later on in the race when fighting Calamity Ganon.
And I want to talk something quick about something that we didn't address in the first race is how they actually get out of these bullet time bounces. Because
fall damage cancel, you mean?
Yeah, so before we complete the Great Plateau and we get the paraglider, we need to get Link out of the air. And the way that happens is you put Link into a falling state, you start throwing a weapon, and on like a couple frames into the throwing animation, if you unequip or re-equip any piece of equipment, so either his shield or the weapon itself, you actually reset Link's fall height according to the game. So you time it so that way you're within a range where Link won't take fall damage, and that's why we call it a fall damage cancel. So we're essentially just resetting his height to a point where it's safe.
It's interesting to notice that now they're basically almost neck to neck now.
Yeah, Song got the bullet time bounce all the way to the shrine, and he got there just as MrPop was arriving up to the right before the water. So you can see the difference between getting the right angle on a Magnesis BTB versus landing in the forest.
So yeah, now this is gonna come down to execution. Then the rest of this shrine isn't too challenging. It's just walking around, doing a shield jump, and then going to the end. That's fine.
Yeah, this is the most boring of the shrines in my opinion.
There are some ideas though on how to complete these shrines in a much more challenging, but not necessarily worth it way, which is to do a box walk all the way to the end. It's really fun, but if I recall correctly, I don't think the time save, correct me if I'm wrong, is high enough to really be worth it. I'm not sure
Yeah,
even what the time save is.
it's more so the fact that it's not very consistent and it's kind of risky because you can do things like you can walk too fast, you can hit the ceiling. There's a lot that can go wrong with it. So just doing the consistent strat is just faster.
Yes. So for reference, for those that don't know, a box walk is what you just saw Song doing. So you stasis charge a box, and then you walk backwards on it, so Link stays on it, which is a funny way to travel fast. And this time around, Song did manage to get the bullet time bounce, which is quite bad at times. And so did Pop. GG to the both of them. There we go. Okay, so here we're gonna see a little difference in the route between Mr. Pop and Song. Because Song is gonna perform a Wind Bomb while Mr. Pop is not. Which is understandable. Because yeah, the wind bombs, due to their tight timing, can be a bit scary to do.
And also, Mr. Pop has what we call the early cycle, down to literal muscle memory. I was talking to him while he was practicing one night a while ago, and I asked him like, "How do you do the timings for the early cycle, which is the platform coming in, throwing the bomb across?" And he's like, "It's literally muscle memory at this point. He doesn't even think about it. He just goes." So all the inputs you see him do, all the unequipping and re-equipping and everything is just down to memory for him. Song almost getting the ZDI cycle, which would have been amazing if he got it in this run. What the ZDI cycle is the wind bomb. You land over, and then you wind up landing in the little catapult thing that you're supposed to load a bomb into and launch over. It was an accidental thing when we were experimenting with the wind bomb strategies that the runner ZDI did.
I guess now that both of them are done with this shrine, and they're gonna make their way to the Temple of Time. So the first thing they'll need to do, yeah, they'll need to collect a beetle that they'll need to use for cooking later on in Hyrule Castle. They will need to collect it from some trees that they will find a bit before the Temple of Time itself. The position of the beetle itself is RNG. Hopefully, it will be on the closest tree. But if not, it will usually be on one of these other trees. So hopefully, RNG will be on their side. Song doesn't have too many arrows, but hopefully Castle will be generous with him.
Yeah, he's fine. He has the 2 arrows that he needs. In order to do the temple, the bullet time bounce, you only need 2 arrows. You need one to actually position the bokoblin and one to let you enter in to bullet time. The reason that you see them actually shoot the guardian before they run past it is if you don't do that, you'll actually get hit with a cutscene and you lose. I think it's approximately like 10 seconds to just watching that cutscene. So if you damage it beforehand, it cancels out that little cutscene that you got to deal with. Looks like both of them got the good beetle, actually.
Yes, indeed. Let's use this moment to basically pray for good banana RNG. Let this be a good sign for it.
First, we got to pray for good BTB, and then we can
Yes.
pray for banana RNG.
Indeed. Oh, that looks risky for MrPop. Wow, that was very nice. Because landing, I mean, as we can see here, it is possible to land on this side of the Temple of Time, but it is very risky. Because here's the thing. This BTB heavily depends, as you may guess, from the positioning of the bokoblin. And if you disrupt the positioning of the bokoblin too early, this may a bit screw over the BTB. So you basically would have to reload and whatnot. And if you fall down the temple, even if you survive the fall itself, there's a risk that the bokoblin will hear you and therefore get distracted, which is not good. Because, yeah, you'd want it to be in its perfect position for when you do your actual setup for the actual BTB. And it looks like Song is getting a really good one, but unfortunately MrPop had to reload. Probably, I think he did it too early, probably.
This is a very, very, like we said before, this is a very tight timing. It's definitely something that I had to practice for a good amount of time before I was able to get it at least somewhat consistently. Looks like he was just a little too late on that one, so he had a very low angle, unfortunately, had to reload. All right, and now we're gonna start praying for Song's banana RNG. With he got the good bundle of arrows at least, and looks like MrPop got his BTB.
Let's go. And now bless all the RNG for yeah, bless all of it. Because bananas can most definitely be not the most funny part of this run.
There's one. See how many tries it takes. Hopefully it's within 3. I've
Yeah, if
seen
it's
it go as bad as, I think Destructor has the record for most banana attempts at like 11 or something insane.
Oh yeah. 11.
Second try.
Okay, nice.
MrPop is actually going for the old backup strat of the slabber. Essentially what he's doing, he's going to charge that giant slab up, launch it into the air with stasis, and then take some damage from it, and that's going to launch him pretty much right to where he needs to be. That used to be the old backup strat before we had wind bombs. But now that we have wind bombs, it's kind of not really necessary.
Okay, so for those that were not here in the previous race, we'll see Song and MrPop taking different routes, because Song will be going for the Wind Bomb and Wind Blight skip route, while MrPop will be going for the Library and Wind Blight skip route. But despite that difference, we'll see what happens. Song is definitely in the lead right now. But we never know, because as we usually like to say, once they're in the final fight, anything could happen.
Yeah, any kind of errors or anything during the boss rush can completely turn the race around. So it looks like Song is going to be making his potion just as Pop is going to be entering Dining Hall for the first time. So Song is definitely strongly in the lead at the moment.
Yeah, right now it would basically take Song to, like, perhaps fail his wind bombs or die during the fights for Pop to catch up. Which is not impossible. You never know what can happen. And unfortunately, Pop, unfortunately getting killed.
Yeah, that's what I like about the new light skip route. We actually skip that spear now. So
Yeah,
not
indeed.
having to deal with those moblins is pretty nice. And it looks like Song got both of his wind bombs and will be going right into the light skip. So like we said, the race isn't exactly over. If Song screws up and dies at some point during this boss rush, it'll give MrPop plenty of time to catch up.
Imagine he dies at Stunlock.
That would be rough. That'd be very rough.
I mean, that happens. And now we're gonna see the shenanigans there. Oops, there we go. Okay, so what Song just did, he shot an arrow just before entering the cutscene. What's happening is that while this cutscene that we see right here is happening, the arrow is still there. And as you can see, like, Windblight's head is kind of messed up right there. And it was actually synchronized, like, right onto his head. And so he was constantly being headshot. And so by the time the cutscene ends, he's dead. And so we skip it, basically. He wasn't even born, he was already dead, basically. The stillborn blight.
That's not fun.
Yeah, MrPop is having it really rough, and that's understandable because the enemy is in the castle. Considering you don't have any equipment at that point in the game, most likely indeed they will just one shot you.
Yeah, for most part. What he was doing there too is he missed the sneak strike on the Moblin. So what he was doing, he was trying to break the crates open in order to grab some shock arrows to get him, and he did get the shock arrows, but unfortunately the Moblin got to him. Looks like it's putting him all the way back in dining hall, unfortunately. So he has to go through the whole running through, cooking his potion, and then grabbing the sword and finally getting back to where he was.
Okay, so let's see if he manages to get a one cycle, which
Looks like it.
nice. Indeed, the one cycle is a bit tricky to get, because first off, the hitboxes when you try to spin on Fire Blight can be a bit finicky for whatever reason, and you also like when he's rising up, sometimes you're a bit unlucky and he will decide to rise way too early, and that might troll you. But luckily for Song, Fire Blight is kind with him time around.
And something to bring up too is bosses like Fireblight, they actually ignore something called one-hit protection. So if Link gets hit with what would normally be a fatal attack while at full health, usually what will happen was the game will reduce him down to a quarter of a heart, like you just saw from Mr. Pop. Reduce him down to a quarter of a heart so you don't die immediately. Phase 2 Calamity attacks, Thunderblight's little electrical rods, and Fireblight's cleave all ignore one-hit protection. So even if you're full health and you get hit with it, you will just flat out die.
Indeed, that's what you need to be super careful about. Oh, unfortunately MrPop got spotted by the Lizalfo that he was supposed to sneak strike. He's unfortunately having quite a rough castle. That's unfortunate. Castle's being mean. Meanie castle.
Ooh, looks like that Lizalfo was trolling him hard.
Meanwhile, Song, he's doing a pretty smooth Calamity Ganon. Luckily his charge up is some shock arrows that he can just headshot him with, so it's fine. That's why usually you want to have as many arrows as possible. You just want to be able to, yeah, just headshot him as much as you can. Maybe just leave a few bomb arrows in case he goes to the wall. But yeah, indeed, headshots until phase 2, so basically the halfway point of his health. And then, as we can see here, phase 2.
Yeah, it's usually a safe bet to leave usually two bomb arrows you want to save, because that'll give you enough strength to knock Calamity off the wall if he goes for it.
Okay, nice, he got the laser. Okay, now let's see, hopefully Song won't have too many issues with the stun lock.
Oh, so if you notice, Song actually got the attack up on the Claymore.
Indeed.
So he's actually going to be doing even more damage than he normally would. So he's going to melt Calamity pretty quickly here.
Yeah, I was a bit concerned at first that he might have issues with durability, but with an attack up bonus, definitely should be fine. Now the only thing that could go wrong is him missing the timing of the stun lock. And there we go. Well, GG to Song for beating Calamity Ganon. And good luck to MrPop on the Bloods fight and the entire final fight as a whole.
I think Blights and Calamity is probably I would say the hardest part of learning. any percent run. Just because it's a grind. It's a serious grind to do because each blade that you learn, because each attack that they do, each weapon swap that they do is all planned out. It's all stuff that's been researched numerous times. So practicing blights, it's a grind when you first learn it. Thankfully, once you learn it, you learn it. The fights are pretty much the same every single time. But yeah, I remember when I learned it, I think it was like 2 straight weeks of just like boss rush grind. So I think that is probably the most difficult part of learning any percent. I don't know what your opinion is on that, Pika.
Yeah, definitely. I remember when I learned any percent back. I learned any percent in May of 2018, if I recall correctly. And definitely the blights and calamity was definitely the most difficult part. Because even at the time, the run wasn't that hard, generally speaking, up until that point. There we go. But truly, you were really tested on those fights. So we can see now that MrPop is onto Fireblight. Let's hope he can get a one cycle for what's it called, the second phase. I like the debate that's going on in chat. Is this Canon, Zorda, Sario, Banky Kang? Who else? Bo.
But yeah, it looks like this is going to be GG's here from Song in a second. He paused. I don't know why he paused.
I don't.
Oh my god. Song with the epic troll right here.
Nice.
Oh my god.
If you've got this.
Song good.
If you've got you've got MrPop W's like in your subs, like do it. Put them in the chat.
It was brutal.
GG Song.
GG Song. That was brutal, dude.
Well, now we'll be able to stare at MrPop's beautiful face during the rest of his run. I'm definitely not against that. What do you think?
I'm with it.
MrPop W. Or MrPop1 W. No, but seriously, GG though. Oh, I know, Wolhaiksong good. Wolhai good. The troll will never stop. I love it.
No. So Song and Pop are friends, but Song is probably one of the biggest trolls on the planet. He's a good guy, but he will troll you pretty much anytime. So
I'm trying
yeah,
to get him to
GG.
come in and explain himself, but
There is no need for any justifications. It just is.
looks like he will be coming to talk with us for a little bit, so we'll get to see him shortly.
Nice.
Pop will not be coming as far as I know. Looks like we have Song. GG's, man.
Thank you, thank you.
GG Song. That was good running, man.
Well,
Yeah,
it
it
looks like you
was-
may be the winner of a certain hoodie.
Finally, dude. I've been waiting for the hoodie for like over a year.
Well, GG
Oh.
though, seriously.
Yeah, that was rough. Like, did Pop do box push on last race?
He did. He went for box push right off the bat.
Okay. Yeah, we wanted to do that, but I had to like help move someone. So like, dude, my hands are so tight right now. I couldn't do it. Like, I wanted to do it, but I decided to like try hard a little bit because like I don't know if you noticed, but I was super shaky during BTBs. So yeah, it was a hard race, but I'm glad I
Yeah, the early plateau BTBs seem to have been difficult, but still overall, despite that, it still managed to be phenomenal times. So
Yeah, I think that second run was pretty solid overall, except for the reload to the beginning of Cryo after missing the Magnesis BTV.
Raph was
That
on his
never
knee,
happens.
man,
Yeah,
sometimes.
yeah. That was a perfect example of how punishing this game can be.
Yeah, this game can be punishing for absolutely no reason.
Oh my god.
It just feels bad, man, when we all saw you reloading into the beginning of Cronus, just like, no.
That was
why,
like
Breath?
a minute and a half gone. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, had to reload Cryonos in the first place because your Voco shield broke when you tried to do the cryo jump.
yeah,
and then
exactly.
It loaded you all the way back to the beginning. It was that was a feels bad.
Indeed, you already were mad enough to go with Boko Shield, and then there was the shield breaking, so you had to I think that's probably indeed because the shield broke, so you had to reload, and that may have to do with the reason why then the game didn't autosave. That's the only thing I can think of why it would do that.
Yeah, the
But
game
otherwise,
doesn't like auto-saving. It could have been worse, I think. One time it took me back to Stacy, so I'll
What?
take it. Yeah.
Wow.
The game just doesn't auto-save at all sometimes.
You're too fast.
I've had times where like I'll screw up the cryo BTB and it'll load me all the way back at the like boulder launch,
Yeah, that happens too.
and you're just like, ugh.
Yeah, I'm honestly glad that didn't happen much on races for this tournament because that's just the game being kind of dumb, a
Yeah,
little bit out of your control. So
yeah, but
Yeah.
I mean it looks like on that first race you didn't have very good arrows like at all going into the boss rush.
dude,
So like, what were you thinking as you were going in for that?
I slightly adjusted my strats. I was hoping I got Windblade skip first of all, so I didn't have to waste extra arrows. Then I wasted 5 arrows on Water Blight, and I wasted 4. I just like saved on arrows as much as I could, and then on Calamity, I just decided to play it super safe. Like every single laser that Calamity shot at me, I tried to parry it. I I was just like just focus and just play safe. Because you can still do Calamity decently fast even with bad arrows, but you can't do like anything dumb.
Yeah,
So yeah, I was
yeah, and I mean that's something that people like when you're learning, you should actually practice like try and beat Calamity when you have really poor arrows. Just for instances like where you ran into in race 1, where like you just have really bad arrow RNG, but you can still finish a run in a very good
you
time
just have to
without
keep
it.
going.
Yeah, exactly. It's something you practice, like you said, and you just learn how to fight Calamity. There's like ways to fight Calamity depending on like how many arrows you have. Like I said, you have no arrows, you just parry a lot. So yeah, there's definitely ways to fight Calamity without arrows. But yeah, I was just like trying to not think about my arrow RNG and just like focusing on playing safe.
Were there any other parts of the races where you were just kind of like, oh crap, what am I doing, or like, what's happening? Like, were there any other parts that really stressed you out?
Yeah, in general, Plateau stressed me out really bad. Like I said, like I did want to say this, but you know what? Pop didn't say GG, so I'm gonna literally say all my excuses and say Pop sucks because my hands right now are numb. Like I had to help someone move. I had to carry like a lot of heavy stuff. So on Plateau I was super stressed out because I couldn't aim properly. If you look at my bot, like I was constantly shaking, and Yeah, that just made Plateau so stressful. That just made Plateau incredibly stressful for me because I couldn't get a single BTB without worrying. It's actually a miracle that I got Magnesis once, actually, because the Boko was always in a terrible spot. So yeah.
Yeah, Plateau can be quite stressful in the
Uh,
first place. So even managing to
Exactly.
get such BTBs, even despite that's really good.
Yeah, Plateau will always be stressful,
It-
especially
it-
if you're like not well in a tournament setting, especially like if you shake a little bit, dude, it's so hard to get BTBs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we could see like at your cryo BTB, you can struggle there, and after what you just said right now, it makes sense because that BTB can be quite cruel at times when it comes to just if you mess up anything.
Yeah, exactly. Like I feel like my aim on the first zero was always a bit off, and Naboko kept noticing me. It's ruthless. It's honestly ruthless.
shall not pass.
It's insane.
the
Like at the very least,
wonderful.
I was. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's the wonderful horribleness of playing with motion controls.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's faster, but you can easily mess up too.
Yeah,
So what
yeah,
else
especially
we?
with a lot of the bullet time bounces and like even setting up like the angles for skew clips and stuff like that. Like having shaky hands at all will totally screw you up. So
Yeah, those were like a stressful set of races, but
The
yeah, I
wind
mean,
bombs were really good though. On the second race, you almost had the ZDI one wind
dude,
bombs. That would have been fun if that happened.
yeah, I feel like practicing the new wind bomb at bombs made me much better at wind bombing in general because the new one is super hard. So the
yeah,
other ones in comparison actually become like easier overall. It's pretty insane.
I was kind of half expecting you to go for go for it at least once with the new one.
Yeah, no, like I tried it, but I wasn't feeling it. Like I said again, like my hands were in a bad condition, so I couldn't even jump off the peg. Like I was practicing it before the race started, and I couldn't jump off the peg. Like that's the main thing about that wind bomb. I feel like you just have like no ground to stand on, so jumping off and dropping the bomb can be pretty rough to do like precisely. So yeah, I decided against it. I really wanted to do it because it's just such a cool wind bomb, but it's really hard. You require insane amounts of precision.
Any last thoughts, guys?
Well,
Mr. Pop.
wow.
Mr. Pop from W.
my
I'm
God.
still having the stream up and I just
I had the picture ready. I had to.
Song with the epic troll to round out the finale. I just want to say it's been great. Watching all the races, popping in to commentate every once in a while. If you don't follow Song, subscribe to him on Twitch. He is an amazing runner. So,
It is still there. I had to check, and yeah, with the end credits and just both of those images on screen, I had to go back for it once.
yeah,
Thank you.
it's pretty wonderful. But yeah, definitely go follow Song. Go follow Pop, even though he plays Ocarina of Time now. It's great runners, and it's been, like I said, I'm fairly new to the community, and just being able to be a part of the entire tournament, just being part of the commentator has been a huge blast for me. So thank you everybody for that.
Yeah, I suppose it would be the same kind of words for me. For me, indeed, I didn't really realize the fact that this was, well, the finale of the tournament. So, as we said, like right at the beginning of the stream, well, it's the Breath of the Wild speedrunning has changed quite a lot since the tournament began. Not just in any percent, but overall, as we said, with wind bombs, especially, and lots of other stuff. So, and just thinking back Indeed, I was also a fairly regular commentator for those because I was also a runner at the beginning, but I died instantly. But I've been happy to commentate, and especially for that last one, I'm happy to have been commentating for this finale, and yeah, GG to all.
GG indeed.
Um,
Song, do you have something?
Oh yeah. No, I just wanted to say that. Well, thank you for commentating. Literally everyone, especially Pika and Thomas, of course, for commentating this final.
Thank you.
And yeah, mainly that. Like, thank you CSR also for hosting this tournament. Thank you to all the restreamers. I think that this is a great chance for the community to come together, and it really shows that we have like a great community. Like we always had commentators. People were like super motivated to keep the tournament going. So yeah, it was really fun. And Tres, give me the hoodie. Yeah.
I better see the hoodie on
Dude,
Wolhaiksong
I
by
need that hoodie.
tomorrow.
Yeah, she'll be right now, Tres. He's probably sleeping.
I can almost
Need a
guarantee
new-
he's sleeping.
Yeah.
Sleep
with a song in the hoodie.
Please give me my hoodie.
I'll bother him about it too.
Sleep.
Thank you.
You deserve it.
But yeah, that's all I had to say. Thank you all.
Awesome.
It was fun.
Yeah, GG's, dude. Really quick, since this is the end of the Breath of the Wild Any Percent tournament, there are a couple other tournaments going on at the moment. Tomorrow we'll have Qualifier 10 for the Ocarina of Time Randomizer Season 3 tournament. That's 2 p.m. Eastern. And at 6 p.m. Eastern, we will have the third seeding race for the Wind Waker Randomizer tournament. And if you just didn't get enough Zelda for the evening, we are going to plan to raid. CSR2 is hosting a Challenge Cup match for a Link to the Past randomizer. I'm not sure who's playing, but we're going to find out shortly. So thanks to everybody. Thanks to everybody coming along, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your evening, morning, or afternoon, wherever you are. So, raid time.
Woo!
Thank you, and
See ya.
bye.
Everybody, have a good night.
Good night, though.